Conference play is on deck on the gridiron, and the Bearcats have every opportunity in front of them.
You are Locked On Bearcats, your daily podcast on the Cincinnati Bearcats, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into Locked On Bearcats. My name is Jeff Carr, and I am all Cincinnati all the time. I've worked in multiple university athletic departments, and I've been a football season ticket holder for the Bearcats for several years now. Locked On Bearcats is part of the Locked On Podcast Network. We are your team, your Bearcats, every single day, and we want to thank you for making Locked On the #1 sports podcast network. On today's podcast, Nippert is already chomping at the bit for Iowa State to get here. I'll tell you why later on in the show that they are ready for that big-time game. In a few minutes, we'll discuss how Wes Miller was able to land a few shooters from overseas late in the recruiting process, which should be huge for this all-new team. But we'll begin with what's going on with the football team as we head into conference play on this episode that is brought to you by Mazda. Like our players, we sweat every detail because when you make every move count, pulling off the unexpected is only the beginning. Stay tuned later for highlights in this week's Moving the Game Forward. Mazda, move and be moved. And where we're going to move here for segment 1, it's all about the Bearcats football team. It is an off week here. Not playing this week, but we're getting ready for Kansas next week in Kansas, and it's going to be a big-time test because we don't know what to expect from this team. The 2 wins that they've faced are 2 games that they should have won, and I would argue they should have won both handedly. They won one of them, obviously, the biggest score they've had in like a long, long time, turn of the century and all that. But the other one in Bowling Green kind of felt like they let Bowling Green back into it late, but albeit they were ahead far enough, it wasn't that big of a deal. And then in Nebraska, we just didn't see anything from the offense. I thought the defense played admirably, but they were on the field so much, at some point they were going to break down, and that's just what happened. So as we get into Big 12 conference play, I'm a little bit concerned that we don't know who this team is, but there's so many opportunities for them. They've done pretty well in the running game, and Kansas has absolutely, I mean, they're coming off of a very bad loss. Not a bad loss in terms of like Missouri's not a good team, but Missouri's offense did whatever it wanted to do to Kansas. Now, I'm not saying Cincinnati is as good as Missouri, but they should be able to take some things from that. Missouri ran for over 200 yards in that game. The Bearcats should be able to get Tawi Walker going. They should be able to get Evan Pryor going, maybe even get Brendan Sorsby a few runs in there as well, and get some rushing yards and really take control of the clock. We talked a lot about that with Russ Heltman on yesterday's episode, that the Bearcats really haven't done a whole lot when it comes to time of possession. And that'll be key here as they get into Big 12 play. But the Kansas game is its own challenge, but the rest of the Big 12 as a whole is going to be plenty enough of a challenge for this team because is the offense ready? We talked a lot about the fact that, feels like Brendan Sorsby kind of has the deep ball working for him a little bit better early on this season. And I feel like he should be given the room to sort of improvise, but he needs help from the run game, and they need to make sure that they focus enough on it. This isn't a team that has to run the ball 40 times a game, but it's certainly going to take more pressure off of Brendan Sorsby, more pressure off of this offensive line to really produce in big moments. I think that Kansas is gettable, and that's a bit of a scary thought because they head into their game with West Virginia coming up here on Saturday, 12.5-point favorites. And it might just be because West Virginia got beat by Ohio and they have looked kind of rough to start the season. But I think that, and we talked about this with Russ, like I think that the point spread for Kansas is probably going to be 4 to 5 point dogs for UC. So it's going to be a similar point to where they began last year's Big 12 play of like people not necessarily knowing who they are, not really buying into what they've done in non-conference play. So what does that mean for us? How do we see this team move forward? Are they going to be able to feature Joe Royer in the passing game? Is it going to be something where Kansas does everything they can to take Joe Royer away and force Brendan Sorsby to go out wide? hit Cyrus Allen in the slot, get to Goody and get to those guys, right? Like, that's going to be the big test in the passing game, but it all stems from making sure that they have better ball control, that Tawi Walker gets going early, and that you get Evan Pryor getting out on the edge, setting the edge with Evan Pryor. I think is going to be the key for the Bearcats to really get this win and move into conference play feeling well. I'm not sure what you feel about the football power index that ESPN provides. I know that there's definitely some mixed feelings, and if you ask our inimitable Locked On Big 12 host Drake Toll, he hates it. But according to the College Football Power Index, they have UC around 6 wins this year, so they have them making a bowl, as is and how they see them performing moving forward. They do not think that the Bearcats can win out, and nor do I. They've got some tough tests that I don't know they can overcome, but they give them literally a 0% shot. The computers are saying there's no chance for the Bearcats to win out. There's a 1% chance for the Bearcats to win the Big 12, albeit a 1% chance. They said that that's the way that they will get into the college football playoff, is if they win the Big 12. But 1%. So you're saying there's a chance, right? That's where we're at with this. But I kind of glean a little bit from that. They think that this is a bowl team. And I think if you believe that the Bearcats are a bowl team, you believe that they could win 7 or 8 ball games and be pretty interesting in the Big 12. Still don't think that they're a Big 12 championship contender, but they're going to be better than people expect. And that's what they've got to show, especially early on against Kansas, against a team that I feel like is gettable for them. How do they look next week? We're definitely going to break down, coming up here on Monday's show, going to break down how Kansas looked and what the Bearcats can expect from how they played West Virginia and different things like that. But I'm curious to see how Scott Satterfield attacks this. I kind of said on my first show a couple of days ago, I thought that Scott Satterfield should be on some sort of hot seat here. And that this season, if they don't make a bowl game, the Bearcats should move on. As it is for FPI, they believe that the Bearcats will make a bowl game. So if they miss a bowl, they will also miss the computer projections, much less our fan expectations. So how does that progress? How does that move forward? What do we see from this football team? It's going to be very telling, because you do have some interesting players that you can lean on, but at the same time, you're going to have to scheme this right. You're going to have to outcoach some guys. In a couple of weeks, as we'll talk about here in just a few minutes, the fun aspect of the Iowa State game. Iowa State looks real good, and that could be a real nasty game if you're not executing a good game plan. So how do they set that up coming up here against Kansas? That's going to be a big key for me. Like, this first game against Kansas isn't the end-all, be-all for the Big 12, but it's going to tell us a lot more than these first 3 non-conference games did. I still kind of give them a pass for the Nebraska thing, because that was such a weird setup. The whole neutral site thing in Kansas City that was basically a home game for Nebraska. Like, that was such a weird setup for them. And then Bowling Green and Northwestern State, if you say that you know anything about this team after those 2 games, I got some oceanfront property in Arizona to sell you. But I think that Kansas is going to be very telling. Are they able to establish the run? That, for me, is really where it's going to begin with this offense and with Scott Satterfield heading into Big 12 play. But switching gears here, because the basketball team really put a premium on adding shooters and ended up getting lucky on a few players from overseas late in the recruiting process. This episode is brought to you by Mazda's Moving the Game Forward. For those who believe it's not just about playing the game, it's about redefining it. There are moments that do more than put points on the board. They move crowds, move culture, and keep moving the game forward. I mean, quite frankly, there was nothing about the Bearcats' offensive line that wasn't perfect. We talked a lot about Brendan Sorsby and his perfect day against Northwestern State, but the offensive line was perfect too. There were no points where you're like, man, feels like Northwestern State is getting any kind of pressure on anybody in the backfield. That's because the Bearcats' offensive line was moving things forward. When you follow what moves you, the unexpected is only the beginning. And just like there's more to every highlight, there's more to a Mazda vehicle. Mazda, move and be moved. The weather's cooling down, the days are getting shorter, and that has me wanting to make my home feel even cozier. And when it comes to cozifying your space this fall, Wayfair is the place to go. Wayfair has everything you need to set the mood for the season, whether it's comfy recliners, warm bedding, autumn decor, or even an espresso machine so you can make your favorite latte at home. Wayfair's got it all. Wayfair really helped me furnish my office, my recording space here. I mean, my desk that my camera's sitting on and my microphone's sitting on, this shelf back here, this cube right here. There's a bookshelf here with a bunch of comic books on it. It's all from Wayfair because I love Wayfair. It's the perfect time to set your home up for fall so you can enjoy cozy nights in with family and friends. Cozify your space with Wayfair's curated collection of easy, affordable fall updates. From comfy recliners to cozy bedding and autumn decor, you'll find all for way less at wayfair.com. That's Wayfair.com. Wayfair, every style, every home. Thank you for making Locked On Bearcats part of your everyday routine. If you haven't, I invite you to. We're going to be with you every day, all throughout football, basketball, all throughout the year, right here on Locked On Bearcats. And if you're not an everydayer, please hit that subscribe button because we're free and available on all platforms. So literally everywhere you get your podcast, hit that subscribe button. You know, the Bearcats were able to really add some shooting late in the recruiting process to their basketball team. Wes Miller did a great job getting a couple of guys overseas in Jordy Rodriguez and Lucas Atari. Jordy Rodriguez from over in Spain, Lucas Atari from Brazil. And he was very bullish on both of their abilities to really get at it from the three-point line.
You guys know the premium that there is on skill and shooting in our league. And, you know, Jordy Rodriguez has a reputation in Europe is one of the great shooters in his generation, you know, or his age group. And playing for the Spanish national team, he's played minutes in the ACB league in the first division of Spain, which is one of the best professional leagues in the world. He's played very significant minutes in the second league in Spain, which is also a very well-respected level of basketball. And so he brings, obviously, skill and shooting, but he has a tremendous feel offensively as a player. Passes it well, moves without the ball really well, and he's got pretty good length and size for a guard at 6'7". And then the same thing with Lucas Atari. You know, he's played professional basketball in Brazil. It shoots it really well, has really good feel, and he has a level of toughness that I think, at least we felt in the evaluation, that would translate to the way that we defend and the things that happen within this league.
I mean, we all saw how much they struggled on offense last year, and Ken Pom just clarifies that. According to national rankings, the Bearcats were 100th in adjusted offensive efficiency. And if you even just look at the Big 12 specifically, when it comes to where the Bearcats ranked last year, they were 11th out of 16 in offensive, adjusted offensive efficiency. They just did not score enough. And even beyond that, inside the offensive performance, they were 176th nationally when it came to three-pointers made. That's just not good enough. And for a team that has missed the tournament as much as they have, they needed to go get some dudes. And Jordy Rodriguez and Lucas Atari both have professional experience overseas. Like he mentioned, these guys have been able to play against older guys and more experienced guys, so they're going to bring their own experience to the table. In fact, there's a lot of different players that the Bearcats have brought in via transfer or recruiting or whatever that have a lot of great experience that hopefully can meld together really well. In fact, that's something that new Bearcats basketball general manager Corey Evans had to say about this, the whole process of bringing together this brand new roster. And yes, they're focused on this talent or that talent, but chemistry is important as well.
I think it's very, very important that we had 13 guys on our roster, 15 guys on the roster at the time. We did not want to bring in anyone that could negatively impact the chemistry of our roster. We've been very, very fortunate with the chemistry early on, with bringing 14, 15 guys to the stable and different backgrounds, different experiences, talking about a 7-year age gap between some of our players.
there's going to be a lot about that we're going to have to see it. It's definitely going to have to come together right in front of us. And like we mentioned yesterday, when Russ and I were talking about this, like the earlier practice windows that men's basketball now has to work with are definitely going to help. But what does that mean when you get on the court and you're facing down an opponent that they're just not missing, or they're shutting down everything that you can possibly do? How are the Bearcats going to be able to adjust to all of that? Because Dede Thomas is here, but is Dede really going to make up for any sort of play that seems to fall apart? Is that going to fall on Buck Harris? Is that going to fall on Sean Abayev? Like, who is going to take over in that sense? And you just need a dude who's going to be able to post up for three and drain it down for you. And it sounds like Jordy Rodriguez, and maybe to a lesser extent, but still important enough that it was a good add late in the process, Lucas Atari as well. And that's the interesting part of this for me, is the fact that they were able to get both these guys very late in the recruiting process. I don't think that necessarily means that they are, also Rans. These are guys that I think the Bearcats were able to discover because of Corey Evans' experience scouting overseas. He was really doing that for the Oklahoma City Thunder before Wes Miller brought him in. Wes Miller understood the value of Corey Evans, and he's going to bring that value to the Bearcats on the court this year. I think that he's added quite a bit of talent to this pool, and I want to dive in more to Corey Evans next week. There's a lot of great stuff that we got coming for you next week, a lot of great folks to talk about Bearcats football and basketball. But I definitely want to explore that more, because the whole basketball general manager idea is relatively new to college basketball, at least in the terms of how they're operating now. Like, you will hear some teams that have a general manager that kind of focus more on the logistics of the team and less so on the on-field or on the on-court product. But I think that Corey Evans is kind of doing everything, and he sort of fits more so the mold of a professional general manager, where he manages the roster a lot more than what you have heard a general manager might do, or at least a team manager might do here, even in the recent past. But I'm very interested to see how this new roster takes shape, because like we said yesterday, it's going to be hard to set expectations for it. But when you hit a reset button, you do still have expectations that, okay, the reset button was so that you can fix the problems that you had. And in this day and age of transfer portal, it is hard to say, exactly how calculated a move might have been, but it's clear that the Bearcats needed a reset on offense after last year. Their offense was not good enough. And when you're playing in the Big 12, years ago when it was the American, and you said, well, the Bearcats ranked 100th, in adjusted offensive efficiency according to KenPom, you say, okay, well, they could probably get by with that in the American. You are not getting by with that in the Big 12. You're just not. I mean, their offensive efficiency rating, according to KenPom, was 100.1. Texas Tech's was 116.5. And as much as that doesn't sound like a big difference, when it comes to KenPom, that is. That's a huge difference. And in order to make that up, definitely felt like you had to make some big changes. It seems like the Bearcats are going to have a much more interesting unit on offense, because, Wes Miller talked a lot about Jordy Rodriguez's ability to shoot, but he's talked a lot about his ability to pass as well. He said that when it came to Buck Harris. Buck Harris is defense, still provides some offensive prowess as well for you too, but the passing, they're going to be able to move the ball around a lot more, and I think we'll see a much more dynamic offense with this brand new unit that Wes Miller and company are going to roll out, and I'm excited for it. But actually earlier on Friday, the Bearcats announced an awesome plan for the next home game. Of course, it's not till October 4th, but when Iowa State gets in here, Nippert is going to look awesome as long as everybody does their part. This episode is brought to you by Square. Your favorite neighborhood spots run on Square. There are certain businesses that truly make the neighborhood feel like home. Whether it's the local sports bar packed on game days, a coffee shop that knows your order by heart, or the corner deli that's been serving your community for decades. These are places that bring people together. When neighborhood businesses thrive, the whole neighborhood thrives. I mean, I can't think of anything that's more apt for this than Goodfellas in Pleasant Ridge. I absolutely love going to Goodfellas, grabbing a slice downstairs, or going up to the Wise Guy Lounge, and it's all ran on Square. Square is a proud partner of more than 4 million neighborhood businesses around the world. You can go to square.com/go/lockedoncollege to learn more. But before you do, go support your favorite neighborhood spot just like Goodfellas. You'll be happy that you did. Square. See you in the neighborhood. The weekend is tomorrow, and it's time to look back on last week's game for the Bearcats and crown the week's MVP. Who delivered? Powered by DoorDash. Just like you can win every Saturday with DoorDash streaks, saving more with every time you order, these players delivered when it mattered most. Let's break it down. It's all about Brandon Sorsby, the perfect day, 15 for 15, 5 touchdowns in the first quarter, setting both a school and a Big 12 record for most passing touchdowns in one quarter. It's all about Brendan Sorsby after Northwestern State. He's going to be riding high, heading on into Kansas next week. And just like Brendan Sorsby delivered for the Bearcats, DoorDash delivers your Saturdays with DoorDash streaks. You save every Saturday you order. Stack it all up in one season, and you could save up to $250, including $100 in DoorDash credits. Order this Saturday. Keep the streak alive. Fuel your game day only with DoorDash. Terms apply. Promo period through November 18th. I encourage you to keep the conversation going with me after the show over on Twitter and on TikTok at Jeff Carr with 3 Fs. You can also find me on Instagram. Just flip my Twitter and TikTok username to Carr Jeff with 3 Fs around. And plus, you can follow the show on Twitter at LO_Bearcats. And the show's also on Instagram and TikTok at Locked On Bearcats, all one word. Lots of great ways to continue the Bearcats conversation all the time. All right, UC announced that on October 4th, when Iowa State gets here, currently ranked number 12, Iowa State, Nippert is going to be striped. We got black and red stripes all across Nippert, and this picture, man, this looks fantastic. I really hope we can pull this off. Of course, it's going to be very important that everybody does their part with this. I noted in the whiteout in the all white, black. I'm getting all my colors mixed up. Anyway, in the blackout last week, didn't quite have a 100% participation. In fact, I would say it was probably about 70-30. So we definitely got to make sure we do this. And if you see this map and it's a little bit small, let me see if I can blow it up a bit. All right, let's try it here. So according to the section that you set in will be the color that you wear. I'm in 117, so I'll be wearing red for this. 118 and 116 next to me is going to be black. But this is going to look super cool if we can pull this off. And then, of course, sometimes it matches up with the upper deck. Sometimes it doesn't. Just depends on where you are. Looks like most of the student section is just going to be red, which is going to be fun. We're going to have a couple of black sections, but mostly red in the student section. The band's going to be in black, it looks like. And then you've got some really specific red and black mixtures over on the other end zone across from the student section. But this is going to be really cool if they can pull this off. And this is going to be a huge game, too, when you look at how UC matches up with Iowa State. Iowa State, I mean, their quarterback has some consideration for the Heisman. I don't necessarily know how serious that consideration is, but some consideration for the Heisman. They are looked at as a bona fide contender to make the college football playoff, and the Bearcats are just kind of here. We're just kind of also-rans in the eyes of the nation, so that's going to be how they could really announce themselves if they have a good game here. And, I mean, if we can pump up that home field advantage, that's going to be so key, and I would love to see that really happen for this for this team. But even just going back to how this will look, not even just on TV or whatever, but like when you're there, I feel like Nippert is such an underrated atmosphere. Like, people talk about different places you could go within the Big 12 and the different schools and their different atmospheres, but Nippert is awesome. It's a intimate atmosphere that is in the middle of campus. You got everything about campus around you. There is nothing about Nippert that is, I feel like it's overlooked. I have a hard time really describing that to people that just don't know as much about UC as they should. But I mean, obviously, you're a massive Bearcats fan. That's why you're checking out Locked On Bearcats here today. But I'm pleased that you're with me. Coming up next week, we've got a lot of great stuff for you. We're going to have Chad Brendel joining us for Tuesday's episode. We're going to hopefully have Dan Horde, play-by-play announcer for your Bearcats, join us on Wednesday. Looking forward to getting Mo Egger on the podcast on Thursday. And then, of course, Russ Heltman will join us again on Friday. Russ is going to be our Friday guest all the way. And hopefully we can get Chad Brendel to be our Tuesday guest every single week as well. Because we just got so much coming for you here. You know, it's great to get the show back. And I know we kind of started here in a bye week. And so there was a feeling of, you know, trying to get everything sort of set up before conference play. But we're here. We're ready. And Locked On Bearcats is going to be with you every step of the way. Thanks for making Locked On Bearcats part of your day. I would invite you to make it part of your everyday routine. Please subscribe and also hit that like button and comment on today's video as well. All of those things will help grow this community for Bearcats fans to find more easily. Now you have to check out the Fire TV College Football Kickoff. It's another big moment for Locked On. College football fans, Locked On and Fire TV presents the College Football Kickoff Show. Your ultimate college football weekly preview happens on Fire TV thanks to Locked On. Drake Toll of Locked On Big 12 leads the conversation along two-time AP Coach of the Year Gary Patterson, former college star Jesse Holley, and Locked On's local experts. A college football preview that only Locked On can do. It premieres every week on Thursdays, and you can watch it all throughout the weekend, only on Fire TV. Thanks again, and we will see you on the next episode coming up here on Monday.